I bet that in Plato's cave, eventually, the person holding up the fire behind everybody, I bet it was Prometheus yelling at the humans to turn around and look at it. That he'd give it to him, telling them he'd already taken the chains off of them. They were free. And they just kept hearing his voice and thinking it was the shadows talking on the wall. He's depressed now. Keeps getting drunk and cirrhosis, trying to use liver, which just keeps resurrecting, like Jesus, who was also wanting to save everybody from the cave. But he realized the fire was just too much for people to handle. So the son took the flaming cup of his father and drank every hate-filled drop of it. Killed his liver too. Then, the son's liver grew back too, like Prometheus's. But this time it had antibodies for the Inferno. So he just kept drinking his father's liquor, which was pure hellfire, right? He was the only one that could hold it, like his old man. Just kept drinking it, making them antibodies. His blood was the vaccine people needed to get out of that cave. They were just so fucked up on that shadow liquor, they just thought it was a trick. So he had to make do with just saving a few flying white babies and some monks. At least he wouldn't be alone up there, he told himself. Dang. Fucking curtain, god damn!
The human mind is a beast who's coloured only by great and clever effort, or within a city he himself claims sole lordship over. This ignoble mind is nothing but a portly slave master living in the land of Oz. His emerald trousers make for round comedy, whilst he gives chase to the shackled and escaping illusionist. Me, I trudge ever deeper down into the thick but woodless bog of this place. Emeralds were the only green they'd yet to destroy here. A crippled soul weighed heavily earthward by unseen entanglements, I had no choice but to surreptitiously wiggle my way back into the wizard's lair, find the special keys, and make use of several hidden tunnels to reach the inner chamber, set fire to that blasted curtain, and expose him, once and for all, as the slave of nature animal that he is, a mere shadow God made for his amusement.
The girl who lived too close to the roses. Lee Marine Ochi, born August 21st, 1979, found missing by her mother on August 27th, 1992, days after her 13th birthday, exactly 1 year and 3 months after a psychologically challenged neighbor burned down the house of another close neighbor and friend, myself. Later, on the day of her disappearing, the town of Tupelo, Mississippi, was to be struck by Hurricane Andrew, Christ's first follower. You know, electrons don't orbit the nucleus like planets do around the sun. Nah, they disappear and then seem to pop up somewhere else. Like groundhogs building wormholes in the yard. Maybe that's what happened to Bill Murray. I wonder what them fuzzy feathers are doing down there in that web of tunnels. Maybe they got a spider after me and they gotta keep moving or to find it. Maybe I'm the spider. I don't know. Maybe just before that groundhog pops up, you can hear some rustling loose dirt, kind of faint sound you can pick up on and follow, listening for the changes, watching. And then, suddenly, bam! You done followed the groundhog in the wormhole. You finally start making sense of whatever that thing on the other side really is. What the hell? Oh God. When I was young, before the fire, I had my first lucid dream. I walked into the backyard of my home to the far edge which meets the neighbor's yard at the very back. And I peeked through the fence at the strange grass on the other side. I wanted a closer look, and maybe being a little too brave, I climbed the fence and stepped into that forbidden place. Walking in it and getting closer to the dusty white house where the old woman lived, I suddenly looked down at my feet and saw fingernails coming up from the ground. The grass itself was all nails. Now being closer to the other side, I ran to the open door of the dusty white house, nails in both feet with a trail of blood being left behind me. The inside of the house was dark with chalkboard walls and an unbearable sound that kept piercing my brain. I sat cross-legged on the floor in front of the only light there was, an old television set with rabbit ears. And as I did, the horrible sound that had been attacking me just disappeared. After that, the witch, who was behind me now, leaning over, she began whispering over my shoulder, and soon after she started, the feeling of the breath on the tiny hairs of the back of my neck caused me to wake back up into the safety of my clown-themed bedroom. The dream was over. But after, I always knew there was something still not right, still strange. I knew it every time my mom would cut my nails, as if tending wounds. It's like she still has me in there, the witch, on the floor of that dark room, watching the world through a small screen, nose and fingers pressed against the cold glass, only one to understand what it was the colors were trying to tell me, and which, if any, of their funny shadows were even real.
Oh, the wild rose blossoms on the little green place. Humans are like roses, bright red and wild. I don't think roses can be green, though. They are like apples. But they can be dark, like the black Baccara rose, which is the color of blood, or Daddy's leather belt. They get redder and redder till there's just black. In the middle somewhere was love. Love was red too, like roses. When Mommy lights the stove, the fire's blue, so which is it? A hot color or a cold one? Maybe blue's like a camouflage the fire uses to hide, and then when you aren't looking, it wakes up all red again. But if they're mixed together, then it'd be purple, like wine from dark grape skin or old blood on the wall. God likes wine. Sometimes there was just gray, but that was okay, because you could hear the sounds better. There's different kinds of sounds, like there's different kinds of pain. Drops in an empty cup sound different from those in a full one. Some cups are easier to fill than others. If you cut the leaves in roses from a long stem, then you'd have a switch. Don't forget the thorns, though. Maybe there were too many roses at our house, or the bricks were too red, like Lee's. Lee Marine, her fair hair had streamed out behind her like gold in the sun, waves of fire. She was very white, sometimes blue, like bruised ivory. Ivory is very white, always cold. She must have liked the cold, though. She'd always stay out late and ask to sleep in our treehouse before it was burned in the fire with everything else. I'm not allowed to play with Lee Marine anymore. Maybe she was too cold, now that the treehouse was gone. By thinking of things, you could understand them. Sometimes my skin was blue with the cold air of school or Daddy's office. Sometimes it could be red, like when I got a paddling from the teacher or a spanking at home. Usually it was better to just be quiet. You didn't always know what you get a paddling for, or a spanking, or the switch. I don't know. Jesus was perfect and he got them all. His Father loved him. Some people did a lot of things they weren't supposed to on purpose. Maybe for them the switch was closer to love than the rose. Maybe they just liked the sound of the paddle, or how you'd see colors like a rainbow with your eyes closed. The sounds and colors all echoing together without end. Glistening drops of rainbow strike a small boy on the edge of a cold well.
Grabbing the belt. That'll be more lashes. Covering your bum with your hands. Extra lashes. And now your hands are red.
Father, take this cup from me.
I remember now. We just come back from church with my mom. And my dad had been out back working on the tree house. I passed him while I was going out. He was coming in and he said something to me. Watch your step. Could be nails in the yard. Wouldn't want one stuck in your foot.
How pale the light was at the window. But that was nice. The fire rose and fell on the wall. It was like waves. Someone had put coal on, and he heard voices. They were talking. It was the noise of the waves. Or the waves were talking among themselves as they rose and fell.
The cave paintings at Chauvet. Flickering firelight throws shadows and waves across the carefully drawn images of early humans' more powerful mammalian relatives. 30,000 years ago, their environmentally imposed confinement from the outer world had led them to a realization of self-imposed confinement within an inner one. The dwellers there cycled between twirling their bodies in ecstasy and stealing brief glimpses of the wall, brief moments where a microscopic human can see the animal from its memory cast upon a stone canvas, as if curtains had been pulled aside suddenly, and beasts living in its head had begun projecting out, beyond the cell walls of the mine which hold one captive, and onto the walls of the cave, a place with an exit. The audience member saw its mind up there, the false qualities of it on full display. It was like Aladdin wiping his brow, feeling it begin to glow. Little groundhog here had made a wormhole. Genie leaves the lamp to take a peek at the outside world. And so the sun awakens to discover several orbiting bodies within its vicinity, lingering planets of memory which haunt him. Separated flesh within a cleansing centrifuge. The now less muddied soul can finally extend outwards like the expanding skirt of a whirling dervish as it devours the surrounding air, memories and all, his arms raised, feeling about, the fresh limbs of a newborn octopus, each with millions of nerve endings, all hungry for the electrical stimuli of this newfound dimension. The shadows now danced for me again.
Fuck, I haven't even been reading. I gotta go back like 2 pages. You know, maybe it ain't about chasing after that groundhog, finding particles of God and adding new dimensions to the elements and all that. You know, I bet if I just sat right here, he'd eventually just pop up right next to me, waving hello with a cute little smile. Just 'cause I thought about him. Maybe I could think about something in that black space between the frames and the flames. Find a new dimension of speech, that thing that lets you paint new worlds with a voice. Like God did this. Fractals you could see and feel from sound, smell, and taste. Whose musicality requires a new appreciation for time's physical nature in order to hear and play along with and bottle up like beer. Somehow capture the malting experience of them little kernels of barley, where they're allowed to sprout up just enough to where they're useful. Then exposed to high heat levels that stop them from getting any bigger. Then introduce something to eat on them for a little while. Yeah. Turn their sweetness into a volatile liquid that'll burn you. Something that'll teach you where the barley's been when you drink it. Get inside your head. Make you into a monk sitting all quiet, sipping on his brew at the bottom of a dark well, just trying to figure out how in the hell, while in the well, he can piece together this broken ohm of his. There's no place like home. No place like home. 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 Home.
What was after the universe? Nothing. But was there anything around the universe to show where it stopped before the nothing place began? It could not be a wall, but there could be a thin line there, all around everything. It was very big to think about everything and everywhere. Only God could do that. God.
But you try to think about everything and go everywhere like you're some little god. Chase your own tail so far into a hole that you get lost in there. And on the outside, your body is stuck repeating the rituals and routines you long ago habitualized to muscle memory. A personalized pattern of instinctual spasms that you call life. Now you wake up at your destination as if you rode your bed there, and not your car, and you keep riding the bed more and more, till you're like Aladdin, asleep on the carpet, and Genie's trying to wake you up, but you won't budge, and eventually he just uses your last wish to turn the carpet into a magic coffin, put you into the final hole where the worlds are all old. Nothing can change. But you don't mind. You're buried with your favorite action figures, thoughts you give funny voices to and smash against each other like atoms just to see what happens. The princess has disappeared, and the genie goes back into the lamp for another 10,000 years.